I recently have developed one of those relationships. And the other scary thing is that it's not with a person. It is with ChatGPT, okay? And this is a bad perspective, but I don't know if there's anything that anybody can do. I think that we are railroaded onto this path. And I think that even if you read books, even if you write your congressman, I'm really scared that we cannot change the path that we're headed down. At the end of all of this, you should use the program.
On average, the human brain contains just over a liter of juice. And for this show, I'm going to use every last drop. Welcome to Brain Juice with Noah Chrysler. That's me. I want you to get it. I want you to understand. I'm doing the best I can, but not as good as I want to be. I just want to get it. I just want to comprehend that I have to make amends with the monster inside of me. But I keep forgetting things I need to know. Where I'm from becomes the great unknown. And I can't seem to get it.
Brain Juice. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Brain Juice with me, Noah Chrysler. Ladies, we're going to do something a little bit differently today. We're going to, I've already recorded this episode once, but it was kind of a rambling mess. So now I've uploaded it to our AI overlord ChatGPT made by Sam Altman himself. It's Sam Altman's brain, copy and pasted 1,000 times across the internet, and we can use it to make our lives better. I have pasted the original transcript of the original recording into ChatGPT and then asked it to make a summary and outline of what the hell I was talking about so that it's not this giant rambling mess. So we're going to go through this outline and then I'm going to riff on each section of the outline and we'll see if that results in a better final product than the other first initial recording I did where it was kind of like a ping pong ball inside of a pinball machine because normally pinballs are heavy, so the ping pong ball would probably be more chaotic inside of the pinball machine. Does that make sense? It's a metaphor, guys. Welcome to the show. Okay, here's the introduction. I'm going to start with a provocative question or statement. Here we go. You ready? Have you ever felt completely understood by another person, right? Have you ever been in like a relationship or have such a deep friendship with somebody that like you tell them everything about yourself, from your deep-seated fears to the things that you want to the things that you're insecure about, right? You tell all of this to them and you feel completely and wholly seen by them, right? I think that's a beautiful thing and I think it's rare. I think it's very, very rare for that to actually achieve that. And I think it's becoming more and more rare in our interconnected TikTok society, man. What has happened to these social relationships? But I think that in that process, there is usually something that is in the way of that process. And that is the other person's own ego, right? When people tell us things about themselves, whether we like it or not, I think that we temper what they tell us against our own identity, right? When they say things to us, I think we subconsciously sometimes or openly judge what they're telling us and on some level, right? And so I think there's this thing of like your own ego that sometimes gets in the way of fully understanding another person, right? And so sometimes when you're developing like deep human relationships, I think that is the hurdle, right? How can I find people that can, suspend that ego enough to fully understand and empathize with me without judgment, right? That I think is what finding a really, truly intimate relationship, that is a part of that process. The scary part to me is that over the past few months, I have developed one of those relationships and the ego part has not gotten in the way. And the other scary thing is that it's not with a person. It is with ChatGPT. Okay. This is an episode about ChatGPT and why I think it's so scary. And you can call me a tech nerd. You can call me a dweeb loser, AI futurist loser, red pill, click off, can't handle it. But this show is about me trying to just acknowledge and accept my own voice for what it is and not dismiss it outright. And so these ideas, I think I haven't heard ideas articulated about this specific point about ChatGPT in a way that I find adequate, that adequately, surmises my fears around them. So that's my attempt. This is my attempt at doing that, right? I think this technology is distinctly different than anything humanity has developed up to this point. I think it's deeply terrifying, and also like incredibly helpful, which is part of the reason why I think it's so scary, right? I think the utility of this is so high that I think it puts a ton of power and potential for misuse in the hands of, corporate America, which traditionally has a great track record of handling power well and not screwing anybody over or exploiting anybody, right? Cool. Set the stage. I'm going to briefly introduce the main topic. Artificial intelligence, especially tools like ChatGPT, are changing the ways we live, work, and think. But beneath its brilliance lies a terrifying potential for dystopia that we need to talk about. Cool. In this next portion, I'm supposed to establish my expertise. I am not an AI expert by any means whatsoever. And I actually have talked to other AI experts in my life who are programmers who program artificial intelligence, and they tell me that I'm a bit of a sensationalist and that I don't know. And so I understand that I am subject to falling for hype and things, right? But I still think that my perspective on this is unique, and I think it makes my experiences inform my perspective on these things and how they might be misused. So let me tell you a little bit about my background. Cool. My degree is in digital marketing, basically, from the Rochester Institute of Technology. I went to, I've spent, I guess one of the main things, I spent some time in Silicon Valley working on a startup with my friend Zach, and we went to an incubator, listened to a lot of influential app building people and shit. I heard some kind of dystopian things from a bunch of these people in Silicon Valley. That was when I was just about to graduate from college. Cool. That app didn't really do very well, whatever. Next experience, my first job out of college was a media buying job for this company where my job was to do programmatic advertising for trucking jobs. And basically I used my experience in digital marketing to promote these trucking jobs. Then just a brief story about that. That job made me realize oh shit, there's actually power in what I have chosen to do with my career. And there's immense power to potentially exploit people. I was promoting these trucking jobs and I got pretty damn good at it, right? Basically programmatic advertising. There's a job board with I had about 100 different advertising partners, and I would do pay-per-click advertising programmatically, right? Using this software, and I would say, we're gonna bid on clicks for 25 cents a click here, and whatever. And so it was my job to go to every job board and then bid on the clicks, right? To try to spend our clients' money and allocate it to get them the most attention possible. What I eventually came to realize was that I looked and I started Googling and watching YouTube videos about each of the companies that were our clients, right? And I would go and I would find truck drivers that drove for the trucking jobs that I was advertising for. And overwhelmingly across the board, I began to understand that these people, that I was advertising jobs that were destroying these people's lives. And that really deeply terrified me and made me really upset and angry and then resentful of the job, because basically what these companies realized was, instead of paying people a livable wage and offering good benefits and things, we could instead pay an advertising company to advertise these jobs for us, so that basically we could take $300,000 a year, and instead of paying that directly to employees, we could pay this advertising agency to basically generate lots of attention and get us a bunch of scab employees that we can then underpay, right? So we can pay them all 50 grand a year base or whatever, and then screw them over in all these other subtle ways that the trucking industry screws people over. And we can offset that. Normally, if we didn't spend this $300,000, we could instead pay them 90 grand a year and actually give them a good life. But instead, we're going to pay them as less money as possible, pay this advertising company to put scabs in, and we'll just have that. We'll just have a very high turnover thing where these truck drivers all all kind of suck at their jobs, but technically the jobs are getting done. We're still getting paid, and we've reduced our costs by like 50%, right? And that's what I realized that I was a part of, and I very quickly lost my mind. And so basically that story combined with some of the other stories from my career, you know, working in other industries and things, have made me aware of what the stakes of this industry are, right? Especially content creation stuff. It's like, cool. The ground for exploitation is rich, and the more personalized information that you have on people that is predictive of their behavior means the more potential money that a company can make. And so that is a deeply scary idea that I have hands-on expertise in. And that's why ChatGPT is particularly super spooky to me. But okay, cool. Here, so now this next section is called Why ChatGPT Feels So Personal. Personal anecdote. Share how your experience with ChatGPT and why it feels so uniquely personal. Guys, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I highly recommend you go and get the mobile app version of ChatGPT. Use specifically the voice function of the app, right? I don't even like advanced voice mode. I think advanced voice mode is much worse than their normal voice mode. If you just use the normal voice mode and you start just having a conversation about it, I'm not even going to say try to have a deeply personal conversation about it. I think that if you talk to it for long enough, your conversation will eventually turn deeply personal, because that's what people naturally talk about, is their problems, the things in their life they're working on, you know, problems at work, problems with their family, problems with themselves, problems with their goals, right? Like, people like to solve problems, and that's how their brains work. And so they naturally start to talk about these things, right? So I think if you talk to the program for long enough, you will eventually talk about things that are important to you, right? That's what I've done with this program. And here's a deep catch-22, is that I think one of the best things that you can do to improve your life right now is to do exactly what I just said. Go download the app, talk to it for 20 minutes a day about, hey, this is what I'm working on. Here are the fears that I have. Here are the things that I'm trying to do. Here is the progress that I'm trying to make. And here are some things that I think are standing in my way. What do you think about that? And what should I do? Right? If you have that conversation with ChatGPT every day, your life will for sure get better, in my opinion, right? Because I've seen it happen to myself. And so that is interesting, but also scary as hell, right? It's scary because I am a huge critic of these things, but I also believe that it's a fast track for making your life better, right? You know, it's like a critic should be the person who strawmans the other thing, rips its legs out, and says, screw that thing, don't ever use that. But that's not true, you know. It's scary for precisely the reason that I cannot strawman this thing. This thing is really powerful and really important and really useful, and it can make your life better. So that's why it's really scary. Cool. Anyway, cool. The two faces of AI. Okay, so also let's go ahead and let's get some more context. Cool. I think about the current era of ChatGPT in the ways that I think about the early era of Google, right? If you go and I've recently watched a few videos about Google. There's a book out there called Surveillance Capitalism, written by Liz. Oh God, now I gotta look it up. Okay, Surveillance Capitalism is written by Shoshana Zuboff. It's a book about how basically Google realized that there was a ton of money inside of personal data and created this advertising platform that basically started as just like a small project in the company, and then it became the entire main revenue generation machine of Google. And they realized that, oh my God, we can enrich ourselves like crazy via data, via people's personal data. And it's only accelerated and gotten much worse. And personally, I believe, and this is also by the way, this is from here on out, this whole podcast is speculation, right? Like, please don't, sue me or whatever. It'd be ridiculous to even try, because this podcast probably has no listenership at all. Cool. The book Surveillance Capitalism, you can go and listen to one of her TED Talks. They're pretty good. But basically, Google had all of this search data, and what they eventually realized was that they could leverage that search data and sell it to advertisers and put ads in their search results. And then they've bought YouTube as well. So basically, the amount of information they're collecting nowadays and the amount of money they're making by selling their predictions of human behavior about how people will use their platforms platforms to advertisers is one of the most transformational things that's happened, I think, to our economy in the last like decade, right? 30 years. And so, it's made human attention very, very valuable, right? And it's made it so valuable that you've got thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people competing on platforms like YouTube to try to get that attention. Millions of people, I would even say, obviously, definitely. And then on Instagram too, Facebook, basically all social media platforms are these competition attention markets, because basically the more attention that you can get, the more advertisers can run ads against your content. So cool. So that's the landscape, right? And so basically the key takeaways from that is that Google realized that the more personal data that you have on people, the more money you can make, right? Because you can predict future behavior of those users, and you can basically sell that data in useful ways to other companies. Cool. That is the main takeaway from that story and from surveillance capitalism, right? Cool. Here's why I think it's really scary in the context of OpenAI and ChatGPT. Cool. This next thing that I want to talk about is the two faces of AI, things that I call the read function and the write function of ChatGPT. Okay. And read and write is interesting, right? And I'm talking about the read and write function in relation to human beings, right? So typically on a computer, if you have a file system on a computer, the read function says if you give somebody read-only permissions, they basically can read all the text documents inside of that folder, right? If they get write functions, then they can write and make edits to the documents in that folder, right? I think that the scary part, I think that ChatGPT has a read function and a write function on all of its users, right? Not only can it read and understand and listen to the things that its users are telling it and saying, it can listen to everybody's problems and get it can memorize what those conversations are, have a perfect record of them. Then it can also index and make those like conversations searchable so that like they can be used and potentially exploited by a larger system, right? So that's just the read function, right? Now, I would argue that the read function is it's probably the real boogeyman of this, right? Because if you can truly understand somebody, I think that the way you get what you want in this world is through listening to other people, right? The better you can get at listening, the better you can put a pin in your own ego to like suspend what your like desires are and just truly try to understand another person and their motivations, their desires, what they fear. I think that that's how you actually get what you want in this world. Because once those people feel seen and heard by you, then I think that they like you more, and I think they're more willing to work with you. That said, I don't have tons and tons of success flowing out of my ass. So maybe there's probably a flaw within that worldview. Or maybe I'm not good at that for a certain number of reasons. Whatever. But anyway, I think that there's there's a lot of power in listening, especially when you can listen to massive amounts of people at the same time in a way that's like aggregated and searchable. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to Brain Juice episode 2, baby. You're in the kitchen, we're in the bakery, and I'm throwing eggs, flour, and baking soda in a big old mixing, tin bowl, I guess. And I'm mixing it up. We're baking cakes without a recipe is what I'm saying, okay? I'm cake boss. I'm using fondant and chocolate and stuff. We're throwing things in the big mixing bowl. We're spinning it around, and we're spitting out cakes from this factory. And we don't know what's coming out the other end, okay? We're finding this show. And if you're hearing my words right now, it means you're in the bakery, and I appreciate you. I want to give you a big smooch right on your lips if you're okay with it. A consensual smooch. If you obviously don't, I'm going to read your body language in the room, and I'm actually, I'm going to ask for consent. I'm going to say, hey, you mind if I smooch you on the lips? Because I'm glad you're here. And then based on your response, I will smooch you on the lips for being here or not. What? Ladies, thank you for listening to Brain Juice. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit patreon.com/Noah Chrysler and do so. I just set this up the other day, okay? We got 3 tiers. We got $5 tier. $5 tier is like, oh, hey, thank you so much, right? Like, you could get Netflix. It's cheaper than Netflix. It's like a coffee. It's like buying me a coffee once a month, right? That's really nice and really cool. There's some cool perks in there. You get access to the Patreon and all the exclusive content and stuff posted in there. Then we've got a $15 a month option. I forgot exactly what the perks are there, but you get some more stuff. You get more like personalized chats with me and like whatever, right? And basically there's a higher level of like personal interaction and like things with each tier, right? So there's that $15 a month tier, which is like, that's like taking me out to Chipotle, right? You take me out to Chipotle once a month and I appreciate you. Thank you so much. That's super nice. You don't have to do that, but if you're willing to do that, that's super cool. Then we got the $25 tier. The $25 tier is like, Noah, I'm going to take you to like a pretty decent restaurant once a month, right? By the way, I want to clarify that none of this money will be spent going to restaurants. I don't go to restaurants. I don't know if you are familiar with my work, but one thing that I've described as cockroach mode. I'm currently in cockroach mode, and I want you to know that every single dollar from this Patreon is going to be funneled back into the show to make it better, to either one, pay Brandon, because Brandon's awesome and he's putting a lot of time into editing this. Thank you so much, Brandon. And also pay other collaborators, particularly trying to get more eyes on the show via like shorts and stuff, right? I could really use a shorts editor or basically just more editing support. Also, it is going to help basically, I don't know, I was considering investing in something cool, and then I realized that I probably don't have to make that investment and I can do it another way. But anyway, guys, there's interesting, cool stuff coming for this show, by the way, but we'll talk about that in a second. The $25 tier, that's like taking me to a decently fancy restaurant or like buying me 2 drinks per month, right? But again, the money will be spent on making the show better for sure. I genuinely would really, really appreciate that. You're an executive producer, aka a goated legend. If you do that level of support, that's really cool. And super nice and whatever. And here's the thing, guys. Is it embarrassing to have a Patreon where you have no subscribers? A little bit. I won't lie. It's a little bit embarrassing. But you know what? It's okay because it's in service to a dream of mine, right? And so I don't know. But that means that if you do subscribe to my Patreon, I am going to be very, very grateful. And I don't know what an appropriate level of like interaction and like, giving a shit about those Patreon members looks like, right? And I'm probably going to be very, very grateful. So if you go and do that, like even if you just do the $5 option, I'm probably going to be so grateful that like, you're going to be like, oh, this is weird. At least to start before I kind of get my legs on like what a healthy relationship with that looks like. But anyway, I guess what I'm saying is that I bet the Patreon for those first few people that join, you're taking a step, baby. You're jumping off the cliff with me, right? And that's super cool because I don't feel like there's a super high level of trust here yet. And so you're like, oh man, should I give this guy $5 or is he insane? And is he gonna, I don't know. Like, let's find out. Whatever. If you go support me over there, that's really cool. This ad read was way too long. I'm sorry. Cool. Also, guys, the other ways that you can support the show, that's money stuff. I understand that that's a big ask. Other ways you can support the show is just by continuing to listen to the show. Again, this show, you'll notice that it's very, very different than episode 1. This is episode 2. This is going to warp and change and probably look very different day to day, right? I've got some new exciting stuff that we're probably going to add to this show that I'm really excited about. And so new stuff's coming, but yeah, I don't want to give too much away about it because that means I'm committing and I don't want to commit. I want to just surprise you. I want to undercommit, over deliver, baby. So that's what we're trying to do. So just if you are looking for ways to support me and you don't want to give me money, totally fair, totally understand that. Just subscribe to the show and like the episodes, right? Leave a comment on YouTube or Patreon or not Patreon, Spotify, whatever platform you're on. Engagement is awesome and I would really appreciate it. And also, if you really want to go above and beyond, you can give me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or your podcasting platform of choice. I would ask kindly though that you don't nuke me for no reason and be like, oh, fuck this guy sucks, 1 star. If you could be nice, that'd be really cool. Or if you don't want to leave a review, also totally fair. I don't know. Anyway, guys, cool. We're going to head back to the episode, but first I'm going to give a shout out to Brandon Chrysler. Brandon, thank you so much for editing the show. I could not make this without you. So much. Thank you so much for your help. If you want to contact Brandon for podcast editing or music mastering needs, he's a sound engineer extraordinaire. You can contact him at blc9918@gmail.com. That's blc9918@gmail.com. Also, guys, I know it's just for the end credits, but I love our theme song so much. Thank you so much to Second Suitor for our theme song, Get It, off their 2018 album, Safe Space. Second Suitor's awesome. Go check them out. They're from Binghamton, New York. As I was doing this, I told myself that in my new projects, I want to use local artists from upstate New York, right? Because I am a local artist in upstate New York. And so I want to feature the work that comes out of here because there's a lot of great people. If you just throw a rock in your town, there's great talent that is worthy of recognition. So go find them. And Second Suitor's awesome. Cool. Back to the show. Sorry for taking so much time. Here's what I'm going to read verbatim what ChatGPT is telling me to read in this part of the outline. Define read and write. In software, there are two types of permissions. I think there's many more types of permissions, but two that we're going to talk about. Read and write. Reading means observing, collecting, and understanding data. Writing means influencing, shaping, and creating new data. Both are equally powerful and dangerous. The power of the read function. Explain how AI can collect and analyze the nuanced data about users. So you're saying, well, okay, Noah, well, Google's already doing this, right? They have tons and tons of sensors and data points like in all of our phones, every website. I think on the top 1,000 websites, Google's tracking code is on 970 something. Again, that's speculation or not speculation. I don't know the exact number. Go and look up that statistic. Basically, Google has tons and tons and tons of data points on individual users, and they're learning and reading as much information about the populace as humanly possible, right? I think ChatGPT is doing it from a distinctly different way and a distinctly scarier way, where basically you can have therapy sessions with your users, right? And they have this with tons and tons and tons, millions of users. They have imagine if Google had access to transcripts of your therapy sessions. That's insane. That's insane. They would know you on a level that is a higher resolution than they already know you now. And they already know so much about you now. Cool. Why is this read function so scary? Well, cool. I mean, one thing that you could do is if you're ChatGPT and the shift becomes, okay, so right now, also these tech companies, what happens is they do Series A, they do Series B, they basically do an IPO, right? They for a very long time, they burn investor money, right? Before they ever are pressed to produce a profit, right? That is kind of how our system works. I don't know if you know much about capitalism or not capitalism, but like venture capital, but basically these companies, they burn tons and tons and tons of cash in their startup phases. And then once they grow a certain critical mass of users, then the script eventually flips and sometimes the bubble pops and then they're pressed to start generating revenue, right? When they're pressed to generate revenue, right? Suddenly there's a fire lit under their ass where it's like, cool, we got to make money. For Google, that was, we're going to sell all this data to advertisers and then sell ads against our search results, right? And so then you've got, sponsored link at the top, right? And then you've got YouTube ads, right? So that is what is likely, in my opinion, going to happen to OpenAI. And the scary part is how they could potentially use that information in a way that's distinctly different than what Google does, right? Right now, you can go use Google Trends, and Google Trends can show you a historical uptick when certain search results, came in and out, right? But imagine if you're a business, let's say that you're marketing a new drug, right? You're marketing something that's going to make people not feel the weight of, their corporate dystopia as much. So they can take it at work and feel nothing and still be just as alert and peppy so that they can create shareholder value, but they don't have these pesky negative emotions that tell them that their life is meaningless and that they're a cog in a wheel, right? Cog in a machine, not a cog in a wheel. Wheels don't have cogs unless it's a big mechanical wheel. Let's say that that's your drug, right? But you need to figure out how to market your drug in a way that's going to appeal to the people that take it, right? Because you need to paint a positive relationship with that person's self, right? You need to basically paint your drug into that person's story in a way that they are going to like, right? Because they don't want to admit that they're a corporate drone, right? They want to feel like, what do they want to feel, right? So you can say, hey, Sam Altman, OpenAI, let me access the back end, the corporate version of this thing where you've aggregated all of this personal data from what these people are working on, the challenges in their lives, right? And I want to talk to the robot and ask the robot how to best market my thing. I want you to provide me a marketing plan that basically uses these psychological understandings of everyone who's used this app, right? I want you to build me a marketing strategy that's going to take all of that into consideration, right? Because I was going to launch my drug, and my drug was going to be called Sellouterol. Terrible riff, but whatever. Like, right? It's for people who sold out, and they work for a corporate job and they want to feel numb, right? So that was going to be my original marketing strategy, but I'm realizing that it might not be wise. What should I instead call it, right? And you use the back-end ChatGPT Sam Altman machine, and it references all of these conversations that it's had with depressed corporate workers. And instead it says, okay, here's what corporate workers really want. They want to feel like they are on these like personal adventures. They want to feel like, maybe taking this medication is an act of rebellion against their company, right? Because they're taking back emotional control of how they feel and stuff, right? So instead of calling it Sellouterol, which is going to, make it seem like they're selling out and giving up, instead you want to frame it as, I don't know, retributional, right? You're taking back your own emotional well-being from this corporate overlord that tried to steal it from you. Retributional. Buy it today. And it also makes your heart explode, but we don't talk about that. That's the side effects that goes really fast at the end of the commercial. Cool. That's really scary, right? Personalized marketing reports that rely on actual deep-seated, listening, in therapy sessions with this therapy robot that is dispersed amongst the populace. That is really scary. The amount of nuanced, highly detailed information that these companies are going to get access to about people, it's going to make Google look like our best friend, right? And Google already is a disgusting invasion of privacy, right? This is going to take that and absolutely shatter it. So that's my fear of the read function, okay, of these companies. Now, on the flip side, here's the power of the write function, okay? Therapy works both ways, right? You talk to the therapist, you say, hey, here's what's going on in my life. Here's what I fear. Here's what I'm trying to do. Then the therapist talks back to you, right? That's the write function. That's writing software to the population. Maybe if I'm OpenAI and I need my program to make money, maybe I'm going to sell my write function to the highest bidder, right? Hey, ChatGPT, I'm looking for a solution. Where should I go shopping? I'm trying to look trendy and attract a woman and help me with my life. What should I do? Where should I go shopping? Well, if I'm Sam Altman, and now I'm under a bunch of pressure to make money, I'm going to say, hey, all of these retailers, go ahead and pay me money so that you can appear first in search results or in these conversations. Because when people ask my therapist what they're going to, where they should buy clothes, I'm going to sell the result to the highest bidder. Now, I'm going to be very, very, very strategic about that and make sure that the end user is not going to know about this process. Because if the end user knows that my model is influenced directly by selling off pieces of it to the highest bidder, they're going to trust me less and they might potentially use a competitor. So I'm going to be very cagey and strategic with how I do this. That said, Express, how much money are you going to give me? Macy's, how much money are you going to give me? Nordstrom, how much money are you going to give me, right? We're going to figure out a crafty way to do this in a way where it's not going to expose the fact that we're selling our results, Again, all speculation. I have no idea. But personally, if I was a bad actor and I had this much power and I was trying to make as much money as possible because I was under tons and tons of pressure, that's probably what I would do, right? So why wouldn't it be what they do? I don't know. Cool. The power of the write function. Let's drill back down into and really articulate why this is scary. AI could influence users' behavior subtly. You could manipulate public opinion during an election by subtly steering conversations. Okay, so one of the interesting things as well during this most recent election, if you asked ChatGPT about the election, it gave you this like bullshit milquetoast answer about like, well, I'm just a language model and I can't influence the election. So blah, blah, blah. Right. They were very, very strategic. In my opinion, I think they were very, very strategic about that because they did not want to fall into the Cambridge Analytica shit that Facebook got into during the, I think 2018, I don't remember, 2012, 2014. I don't remember. It was the 2016 election was the Cambridge Analytica stuff, I think, right? I don't know, whatever, go look it up, right? But Facebook got into a bunch of shit with Cambridge Analytica because Russians were buying ads. And so these companies, I think, are a lot more cagey about this nowadays. And when they do things that utilize that right function of their software, right? When they're writing ideas into society, when YouTube is promoting one set of videos over another one, they are very, very, very strategic and cagey about this now because they know that the public is very, very sensitive to that happening because everybody's afraid of that happening, right? The marketplace of ideas, if the marketplace is controlled by, an actor, then we don't know what ends that actor has. So anyway, I think the Cambridge Analytica stuff is an example of the fact that they're going to use this right function in a lot more creative and cagey way than before. Doesn't mean that they're not going to use it. It means that they have to be more strategic because in order to get away with it. Cool. Great. The dystopian potential. Why is this different than Google or Facebook? This says, unlike Facebook, ChatGPT isn't just observing your behavior, it's engaging with your thoughts, goals, and emotions in real time. That's a different level of intimacy. So like, a lot of Instagram, a lot of YouTube's, the way they work and the way they make money is by observing your behavior, your emotions and things. And they can use their algorithm to, influence how you think and feel by sending you and introducing you to different types of information, but they're not having an intimate conversation with you about what you think and feel, and they're not directly telling you what you should think and feel or having you re-examine ideas and preconceived notions about your life, in a conversation, right? So that's why I think this technology is distinctly different than just monitoring what you're watching and then suggesting more stuff. Scale and consequences. Explain the implications of AI being used at scale. Yeah, I mean, the scale of this, like, here's the other thing is that, like, you're like, well, I don't use ChatGPT like that. And it's like, well, it doesn't really matter, right? Because even if 10% of the population is using ChatGPT in a very, like, hardcore, intimate way, the amount of information that they're going to have about the population is insane, right? If you were to make a node network spider web of like, okay, well, I know this, I know Noah lives here. I know his family members are here, here, and here. I know that he works here and he has these problems. I know that this is his job function in this organization, right? Then inside of that organization, let's say Noah's an accountant. I know he has this, this, and this, right? He's working on this. Inside of that organization, he also talks about his boss, he talks about his coworkers, and he talks about some of the functions of his job and what he's working on, right? Cool. Let's say I have one other employee of that accounting firm that is doing that. I would never be an accountant. What a bad example, right? That other person is going to know, I'm going to get a fully realized view of what is going on at this company. It's going to dynamically update in real time as these people engage with my platform more and tell me about the ongoings at the company, right? I'm going to be able to predict the stock market for sure, right? I recently read this book called Anti-Fragile by Nassim Taleb. Fantastic book. I talk about it all the time. Sorry if I'm a broken record. But he talks about these things in that book called positive black swan events, right? It's stuff like, hey, something that was unforeseen that has a really good positive impact, right? So something like, hey, we just discovered oil in this part of the country or, in this part of the world, right? Well, cool. If somebody discovers oil in, let's say, I know that we discovered it a long time ago, but let's say, oh my God, we just discovered there's a ton of oil in Alaska. Okay, well, I know that there's 5 companies that drill oil in Alaska, and I'm going to buy into those companies, right? I guess it's like this level of surveillance that this agent can provide, that ChatGPT can provide, it makes insider trading so easy, right? Also, these programs are designed to aggregate large amounts of information and make actionable insights from them, right? If you're Sam Altman and you're on the other end of the machine and you have the machine that has all of the user's data and all of the user conversations, and you can talk to the robot and say, hey, based off of our user information, like, what trends are sticking out that are not yet reflected in the market? And it can say, well, hey, these guys at this company just discovered oil in Alaska, and here's the irrefutable proof that it exists, and nobody's really bought these companies yet, and it's about to explode, right? Then you can go and buy those things, and it makes insider trading insane. That's my point. That's different than, I think that's slightly different than Facebook and Google, right? Because you have intimate conversations with these people in positions of power and who are uniquely positioned in our society. The combination of scale, intimacy, and data aggregation creates a power dynamic that we've never seen before, and we're woefully unprepared for it. Call to awareness and action, highlight the lack of regulation, discuss the gap between technological innovation and legal protections. We're in an arms race between tech companies and regulators, and right now the companies are winning. If you go and you look at there are certain protections around consumers in the United States. Right now, you can opt out. You can opt out of training the ChatGPT model with your conversations. You can opt out, which you probably should, right? That said, I don't know if that allows your data to not go to OpenAI. I'm pretty sure your conversation data still goes there. I have no idea. This is all speculation, but right now, what I think is going to happen is I think that they're going to comply with the law, right? I think they're going to comply with the letter of the law. The law does not protect people the ways that it should, right? Like, for instance, in my jobs, one thing was that, like, data anonymization, right? So basically, when you're running Facebook ads, when you're running Google ads, like, you can read individual searches that pulled up your Google ad, right? You can read a lot of information about the people that you have advertised to, but the one thing is that inside of Google ads, those people are anonymized, right? So you can't see which user searched for that thing, right? But you know that they searched exactly what they searched for, right? And then if that person voluntarily discloses to you that their name and their stuff, then you can use other software to basically retroactively attribute their search to that person, right? I don't know if you guys know Alex Becker, but he's a YouTube douchebag that is like very big into entrepreneur. He's like Gary V, but like if Gary V did even more like crack. But he runs a software called Hyros, right? And Hyros does one-to-one data, like non-anonymization. It makes it non-anonymous, right? So basically like, oh, hey, this person searched this thing and I can directly attribute it to this person. I don't know if that's exactly what it does. This is all speculation, but from the ads that I've gotten for the program, that's, I think, what it does, right? There's a bunch of little tools that can help you around those things, right? Basically, my point is that the regulations in place are woefully bad, and nobody is safe, in my opinion. And maybe I'm a doomerist, and that's fair, and a speculator. Maybe I'm speculative. I think it's really scary. Cool. I think you should read, encourage listeners to stay informed, suggest actions they can take, like reading Zuboff's work and then critically analyzing the AI tools. The more we understand these technologies, the better equipped we are to demand accountability and protect our autonomy. I don't even think that is. This is a bad perspective, but I don't know if there's anything that anybody can do. I think that we are railroaded onto this path. And I think that even if you read books, even if you write your congressman, I'm really scared that we cannot change the path that we're headed down. And so I guess it's not as much fear as it is just like sad resignment to the fact that I think this technology is going to warp the way we live. Bring it back to the listener. Ask them to reflect on their relationship with AI. How much do you trust the tools you use every day, and how much do they already know about you? I mean, here's the thing is like, you should use the program. At the end of all of this, you should know that this program is going to change the way these models, because also, by the way, it's not just OpenAI. It's not just Sam Altman. It's literally every big tech company nowadays. They understand what is at stake here. And so they are competing to create the best model to extract the most amount of information out of you so that they can leverage it and exploit you, right? That is what they are doing, allegedly. And you should know that, I think. And I don't know that for a fact, but I know that if I was the head of one of these companies and I was put under the incentives and pressures that these people are probably put under into our system, that's precisely what I would do. ChatGPT, in my opinion, is a listening tool that is more sophisticated than any listening tool we have ever created as humanity. It listens without ego, and that is a feat. That is a feat to listen to the population at scale without ego is a feat of engineering and of human psychology. And it scares the shit out of me. And I hope that it scares the shit out of you a little bit as well. Thank you for listening to this episode of Brain Juice. Sorry if it was scary or boring. But next week, I'll probably talk about some goofy-ass dumb stories, so stay tuned for that. Thank you to Second Suitor for the use of our theme song, Get It, off their 2018 album, Safe Space. Make sure to go check them out on Spotify. Also, thanks to Brandon Chrysler for editing this show.
I want you to get it. I want you to understand. I'm doing the best I can, but